Happy Labor Day, my friends. It is September 3rd, 2018, 4:25 p.m. All right, and things are happening pretty quickly now. We have Gordon already as a tropical storm. This did happen a little sooner than expected. Now, you could see Gordon is basically over the southwest area of Florida, certainly affecting the Keys. The entire state of Florida is certainly being affected as we speak by Tropical Storm Gordon. We have 50 mile per hour sustained winds. Those are winds that are constant. The gusts are definitely a little bit higher, probably pushing into the 60s. Now, the thing with this is because we are at tropical storm status, once this thing passes that threshold of South Florida going into the Gulf, it has from basically this space up into this area to gain strength. Now, I'm not predicting this. I'm not saying this will happen, but we have a very strong chance of this storm reaching that Category 1 status before it gets to the borders of the Panhandle and Mississippi, Alabama, and the Louisiana area. In fact, we have official hurricane watches in effect now, basically from Pearl River, Mississippi, all the way through the coast of Alabama and Florida. So these areas are under hurricane watches with the possibility of this becoming a hurricane. Now, it will continue to stay as a tropical storm. There's no doubt about that through its path, at least through the Gulf. So that is at minimum. But it looks based on the dropping of the pressure. We're at 1,007 millibars. And the fact that this thing is really bubbling up. I'm going to show you in some of the radars that there are some very, very high clouds shooting up into the sky from this storm. That just show that it is gaining strength. So we are going to be dealing with a very, very serious situation in basically the states of Florida, Alabama, Mississippi, Louisiana, and even possibly the southeast corner of Texas, like we spoke about yesterday, because of the Gulf and its warm water. It is perfectly sustainable for the creation of cyclones. So anything that is not being affected by land will just completely gain strength. And right now, Gordon is right on that border there, affecting the Keys in South Florida. So we'll take a look at the current spaghetti plots here. Now, they have changed a little bit. You could see some of them are actually bringing this thing closer to the Panhandle. This would limit the amount of time it's in the water. So you got to look for the silver lining in some of these situations when we already know that the storm is going to go in this direction. The longer it travels in open water, the stronger it will get. So again, like I said before, the possibility of this becoming a Category 1 storm before landfall is very, very possible. The water is extremely warm. This storm already exceeded the amount of time they thought it would take for it to become a tropical storm. So we have crossed that threshold of the 50 mile an hour. Anything between 39 miles an hour and 73 is a tropical storm. Once you get to that 74 mile per hour mark, you're at Category 1, which is very possible. And if that happens, I'm assuming it would happen right around this area. Now, these may fluctuate a little bit to the left and right, but for the most part, you are looking at the track that Tropical Storm Gordon currently will take. Here's another little version of it, showing a little bit more about what it's going to do once it gets into the U.S. And now you see this drastic right turn it makes. That's due to a high-pressure system that we also talked about yesterday that's going to be moving west to east across the U.S. Now, this high-pressure system is also could potentially be the what we need to keep Hurricane Florence, once it becomes a hurricane, from hitting the coast. Now, as of right now, the Canadian models and the European models both have this thing making landfall around the North Carolina-Virginia border. One of the models even has it a little bit more south in the South Carolina-Georgia border. So still a little bit of difference going on in the models. The GFS has actually put this thing a little farther away from the East Coast, which is a good thing. They are heavily relying on this high-pressure system that's causing Florence to make this really strong right turn across the U.S. to, in turn, push Florence out back into the ocean. So we got to just wait and see what happens with that. You could see here on our current county-by-county chart, the flash flood warnings and the tropical storm warnings are all along the coasts of Florida, Mississippi, Alabama, Louisiana, and again, we can expect that to move into parts of southeast Texas and the rest of Louisiana. This will change over time. Lots of different warnings going on here. The flood watching, the hurricane watch, the tropical storm watch, you name it. It is just a giant mess going on in the southern Florida area right now. Also with the lightning, you could see a lot of these strong storms they are not just on the east coast of Florida, but they are covering the entire northern area of Florida as well. And little pop-up storms going on in the Gulf. Of course, it is just filled with moisture, filled with heat and warm water. Those are the ingredients you need for strong storms. You can see strong storms all over the U.S., but that will be for another video. We are focusing on Gordon and Florence at the moment. And for my friends that are concerned about the Pacific area, really quick, we'll just take a look and I'll show you. We have Norman out here, which is a strong Category 2 storm, and then we have Tropical Storm Olivia, and then after that, this disturbance would become Paul if it does form. Now, as of right now, Norman and Olivia are expected to pass north over the Big Island of Hawaii. I have a buddy down in the comments section, Bryson. I just wanted to relieve some of his heart palpitations because he's very concerned about his home in Hawaii. So as of right now, these storms are expected to go north over the island. I will keep you guys updated on the Pacific, absolutely. But right now, with Gordon being so close to land, basically on land as we speak, this will be the topic of conversation. We have Tropical Storm Florence out here, which again is still just marinating, waiting to become that hurricane, that Category 1. We're at 65 mile an hour sustained winds. And then now our percentage for the next storm coming is at 40%. So again, guys, these things are going to be like a conveyor belt for the next at least a month, probably 6 weeks. We can expect to see invest coming off the west coast of Africa, and then you will begin to see invest forming down in this area. This is usually the cycle we go through. We get our storms from the west coast of Africa, and then later on, as the season gets deeper and deeper towards those mid-October times, we start seeing those storms form down here like we did with Hurricane Nate last year, which shot this gap fairly quickly and then went straight up into the U.S. So we have a lot to talk about in the coming weeks, and obviously Gordon is really a big concern right now. Now, unfortunately, there are people in Florida right now that are on vacation and stuff are almost unaware of this storm, if that's even possible. Basically, the entire state is rain and storms right now. So there's a little bit of an area down just as you get to the Lake Okeechobee that could be open area, but still just the winds and the gusts going on. You can see by this picture from the Weather Channel. This is close to the coast right now. These palm trees are just bending over. I wish I could play the video for you, but unfortunately copyright will not allow me to do so. But as of right now, Tropical Storm Gordon moving into the Gulf of Mexico as it soaks southern Florida. Hurricane watch and tropical storm warnings have been posted, so they are not taking this lightly, guys. This is a very serious situation. With this comes your typical situations. We're going to have a storm surge. We're going to have high winds. We're going to have spotty storms in areas that aren't exactly near the center of this storm as it forms. Now, when you watch some of these radar charts, some of them are showing almost the formation of an eye. You could see we are still just a complete mess in the Gulf. And I'll back up here and show you what's been going on over the last couple hours. We could see basically the central part of Gordon is right around this area, and then it basically just explodes over South Florida, which is why areas of South Florida right now are already being flooded. There's very high wind rates, like I said, those 50 mile an hour sustained winds, and the gusts are even higher. So what's going to happen next is we're going to be dealing with this thing starting to shift to the left over the east coast of Florida and then back into the Gulf, and the central part of this storm is going to come right along this way here, which it already is. Now, that's what we need to keep an eye out for, because what they're showing as far as a pattern, you can see this deep color red here is where they're expecting this storm to go. I am in agreement with this. I don't see much of a fluctuation. Regardless, though, when we're dealing with a storm, even a tropical storm, it does not have to be a Category 1 storm. A tropical storm alone will easily flood and cause storm surge and high wind rates to these four states right here: Florida, Alabama, Mississippi, and Louisiana, just based on tropical storm strength alone. If this thing does become a Category 1 storm, it's a game changer, complete game changer. We're talking from the 50-mile-an-hour winds to 70s and 80-mile-an-hour gusts, very big difference. And if this thing makes any sort of a shift to the west, we could put southeast Texas in this as well. So that's why they call this a cone of uncertainty. This is basically an area of which this storm can go, but the focus is on this straight line right here. And again, like I said, you can kind of match that up to the spaghetti plots as well. So this is happening right now, guys. This is something that we're not going to be waiting days for. It's already making its effects on Florida clearly. We could see big storms all over the Caribbean, just adding fuel to this situation, believe it or not. Just the moisture in the air and the heat and the warm water. Those are all those ingredients needed to form these storms. And that is why Gordon went from a tropical depression to a tropical storm so quickly. And even with the interaction with land, it was able to overcome that and still become a tropical storm. So we need to constantly watch this almost on an hourly basis. Those of you in Florida, I'm sure you know this already. Keep that local radio on, the local TV, whatever you need to do to stay informed about this, because it looks like a big mess here, but this thing will start to tighten up and move in this direction, and that's when we really need to start focusing on where this thing is going to make landfall, whether it be a tropical storm or a Category 1 hurricane. And you can see these dark black areas, guys, are the most severe areas of this storm. And as it moves off the land, you're going to see once it hits the water again, it's going to begin to blow up. So there you have it. That's what we have for now as far as Gordon goes. This is the mimic chart we can look at, so we can see Florence continuing to move in its westward direction. We have another invest that is coming off the west coast of Africa as we speak. This is looking to be like a storm that is going to form also according to the Canadian charts and the European models. And then you could see Gordon right here. Basically, it rolls over the Bahama area, over southern Florida, and then you could see it just exiting the east coast of Florida right there and continuing that counterclockwise spin. And then it's crunch time. Then it's when we watch this thing, how long it's going to be in the water, how strong it's going to get, and where it's going to hit between the Panhandle, Mississippi, Alabama, and Louisiana areas. All right, now on to Florence, guys. Now, the spaghetti plots of Florence have basically been changing every couple hours. Now, some of these have that high-pressure system that's moving from west to east off the U.S., pushing this thing out sooner than we hoped. But again, the Canadians and the Europeans do not believe this is going to happen that quickly. You could see our black triangle line here is the current direction of the storm. This is not where they say it's going to go. It's just where it's going as of right now. But the plots are what you want to look at. And these are important because when you get such a wide variety like this, it just means that they are not really certain about what's going to happen with this storm. It's all going to depend on the jet stream and any sort of high pressures that come off the U.S., which is where a lot of our storms are determined, and that's when we figure out where they're going to go, whether they go up the East Coast or whether they stay south into the Gulf. If we have a high or a low dip in the jet stream in this area, that's going to force the storm to stay low. If we have an upward lift in the jet stream, that's going to allow the storm to move north quicker. So that's what we're waiting on, and that's all we can do at the moment. All right, and for Tropical Storm Florence, which will soon be Hurricane Florence, I'm actually going to use tropical tidbits rather than Ventus Sky. Ventus Sky, for the most part, is basically just following the path of the European model as of right now, with a possible cyclone formation in the Gulf by the time we reach September 12th, and then 13th the storm has it right around this area. So let's look at tropical tidbits to check our different models and verify exactly what we might be dealing with here. Now, again, this is the European model. This is what they believe is going to happen. As we move Florence through the middle of the Atlantic Ocean, it kind of dies down a little bit, but then as it just crosses the threshold of the Leeward Islands, if you were to look south, that's when it begins to really form again. And now the Europeans have this thing coming down even further south, possibly affecting the west coast of Florida. That would include Georgia and South Carolina. So a little change in the European model already just overnight. also showing multiple storms behind it. So that's what the Europeans believe is coming. If we change to the Canadian model, you could see by the 13th, they believe the storm will be up by the northeast, by Long Island, Connecticut, Massachusetts, with the eye wall being, looks like, right off the coast. So all these charts are relying on a high pressure eventually moving across the U.S., pushing this storm out. They just have a different opinion on when that's going to happen. And the later it happens, the closer this storm will get to the coast. The sooner it happens, the more we will see something like this, like the GFS version has, where they show the storm basically not even getting close now to the U.S. coast, and the storms and the high pressures pushing it out a lot sooner than later. So there's our GFS version. Once again, the European model has this thing much further south, affecting the west sides of Florida just after Gordon affects the east sides, with multiple storms behind it. And then the Canadian model, to top it off, is projecting a northeast possible landfall with another possible hurricane going on in the Gulf, looking like it will affect Mexico or South Texas. So, guys, we have a lot to look out for over the coming days and coming weeks. A lot of things will change. Again, anything 5 days out, you cannot guarantee. I don't make any guarantees on this channel. All we do is we analyze data from different sources, and we try to come up with an educated guess on where we think these things are going to go and who to warn. All right, guys, I don't want to keep you on the holiday. Happy Labor Day. I hope everyone is enjoying the weekend that is capable of doing so. I will be back again, hopefully this evening with an update. If not, then obviously tomorrow will be another day with another update. I'm going to do this as often as I possibly can as we have these things changing very drastically. All right, guys? So those of you in the path of Gordon right now, please stay safe. Spread the word to those that don't know about it, if that's even possible. And then we have to worry about our friends in the Gulf states. So that's where we're at right now, guys. Thank you for sticking with me, and thank you for the patience. You guys are all wonderful. We'll talk very soon. Stay safe. Be prepared. Have a plan. Bye-bye.